Hello and welcome to the Plain English Finance Podcast, the podcast dedicated to helping you make smart financial decisions. I'm your host, Trey Bino, certified financial planner and chartered investment manager. I'm a financial planner with TCU Wealth Management and Aviso Wealth. For more details or to send in your questions, check out the show notes at treybino.ca/podcast. And if you want to learn more about me, start with episodes 1 and 2. Let's get into the episode. I am joined here by Sierra, my wife.
Hi.
Yay.
Yay. I like that.
This is becoming a common theme. This time, I kind of told you, I don't know, a few hours before we did the podcast, what was the podcast on?
You said it was going to be about what is money. And actually, when you said that, you were like, I'm so excited for this episode. So then I started thinking about it and I got excited about the episode. So that's why we're doing it right now. Actually, it's not our usual time to record, but we're just excited to get this one out.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, why are you excited about it?
Well, I was just excited because you were excited about it. So I kind of thought about my answer, but I didn't. I just said before we started recording, just so everyone knows. I didn't do my homework for this episode, so I don't really know what I'm going to say when you ask me, because I know he's going to ask me. So, Sierra, well, he calls me Cease. So, Cease, what do you think money is? And I'm going to have to come up with some answers, so hopefully I don't mess it up.
We'll see. So the reason I'm excited about it is typically when I'm talking about finances, it's in very black and white terms. This episode is going to be more philosophical in nature.
I love those kind of conversations. Anyone who knows me knows.
I know you do.
Let's talk about psychology instead. No, I'm just kidding.
No, wrong podcast. Okay, so what do you think money is?
So when I was thinking about it, I came up with it's something that we've assigned value to as humans. So prior to money, we were using a trading system. I'm just going to throw out an example. Hey, Farmer Joe, I'll trade you 1 sheep for 3 chickens because I need chickens, you need sheep, yada, yada. Of course, not everybody has farm animals to be trading and other commodities, right? So in order to simplify things, I guess, we started using, I want to say, gold, other materials to trade, and we assigned value to those materials depending on what it was, and so on and so forth. We started just putting it on paper and saying, this is worth a dollar figure, and then we assign commodities and like products those dollar figures. Doesn't it? Yeah, I'm like, oh man, okay, wait. Yeah. And then the math meme comes up where I'm figuring out all these numbers, but yeah.
Yeah, you're right. In some of it. So fundamentally, money is used to exchange value. So in that example of chickens and goats or whatever. Sheep, okay. Same principle, just less fluffy.
Sheep have wool, so okay. Not the same.
So I said less fluffy. In that example, there is value being exchanged. There is value in the goats, and there's sheep. There's value in the sheep, and there's value in the chickens.
Right.
And the easiest way for us to exchange that value is to go through money. Mm-hmm. Because it's very inefficient to do it the other way.
Right.
So really, and you're right, we used to use just precious metals, so silver, gold. You had the denarii from lots and lots of different currencies throughout history. That changed in modern finance. So before, the money was a store of value. So it means that almost building up money the value would always be there, because everybody kind of used gold and silver and things like that. So that meant that like a kingdom could legitimately go bankrupt If you didn't have gold in the coffers, you couldn't just miracle gold out of thin air and pay the army to fight for you, right? That changed. So modern history is not like that. The government, for those reasons, does not use or trade with gold anymore. So there was a time, and people often call it the gold standard, but where a currency was based on gold. And then the US specifically, because that's obviously the biggest economy in the world, they left the gold standard, and therefore their debts, when they lend money or when they borrow money, countries can no longer force them to repay it in gold. And that meant that currency wasn't based on gold anymore. It was based on what?
Numbers on a screen.
Whatever the heck they decided it was. It was based on trust.
I'm thinking, when I hear things like, oh, the United States is whatever, $1 trillion in debt, I'm probably...
It's multiple trillion. There's a website for it.
Okay. So, yeah. To hear that the United States is that in debt is... We can't fathom it. It doesn't make any sense. You know, you say a word, but you don't actually have an idea of what that means, right?
Yeah, it's so big. It's very difficult to visualize. Even I barely can visualize. It's just so much money. It's hard for anybody to really understand it. But what it meant was that the store of value changed. And that's where you get a lot of like finance gurus telling people to buy real estate, right? Because it's like a physical thing. And buy other things that can store value. And that's actually the attractive thing about gold still. People still buy gold. That's the attractive thing about Bitcoin. Right?
But then
that's the story.
What is Bitcoin? Because isn't it just a number on, I don't know.
That's a completely different podcast. But in essence, the fact is that it's there's a finite amount of them. It's not unlimited. Can't just be arbitrarily printed. Therefore, again, Bitcoin is something that people just assign value to it. And I have my own thoughts on that. We have a little bit of it, but not. It's certainly not like what some people do.
Right.
But that aside. So basically, money is now it is an exchange. It's the middleman between sources of value.
Right.
So you go to work and your boss pays you. You're trading the value that you've created the company. They're giving you a middleman for it. You then take that middleman and you go to other things that you find valuable, like hopefully your house or food on your table or the vacation or whatever it is. So in the meantime, it is stored in the middleman. And because it's not based off of anything like it used to be, it's not based off of gold or anything like that, that has a guaranteed, well, not guaranteed, but has a finite resource to it. It's subject to something called inflation.
Right.
Everybody knows what inflation is because it's been on everybody's mind over the past 5 years. Yes. What's inflation, though?
Inflation is, I want to say, the value of money decreasing.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's I can't even add to that. Yeah. Pretty much what it is. The value of the money that you had decreases. And that's because of the way that the monetary system works. So,
is that because they print more money, or how? Like, why does that change? I guess
an increase in money supply is part of it. It's also actually on the current system. It's good for the economy because it encourages people to spend. So a good example of that is, why would I buy a reasonable person? Why would I buy a car today, like a brand new car, if I think that a brand new car tomorrow is going to be cheaper? Or if it's going to be the same price tomorrow or the next year or the year afterwards, there is no urgency to it. So it encourages people to spend more money now. And that is good for the economy. The economy typically works off something called velocity, like it's how quickly money goes through the economy, because that aids tax dollars, etc. Like tax is a completely different situation, but briefly, if you think about how much tax that like the government collects more tax per dollar than a dollar. If that makes sense. So if I earn $1, I get taxed. Let's say I get taxed at 40%. Mm-hmm. So 40 cents of that dollar then goes to the government, and then I then go and spend that 60 cents, and I go give it to you.
Yeah.
Now you then take that 40% of that 60 cents, and that goes to the government. Right, like it just gets So and then you go and spend it on something else, and they take a portion. So a lot of it comes from velocity, right? It's just like how much, how you want the money to be circulating in the system to keep it going, basically.
So when you say you want the money to be circulating,
the general public do.
Because
we
I guess
want it
tax
as well.
money is also good for the citizens. Like
yeah, and it's not just taxes; it's businesses. It helps businesses grow and
right.
etc. I would much rather live in a society that has a stable currency than one that doesn't. Right? Like we look at. There's been a lot of failed currencies out there.
What would be an example right now of a currency that's not doing as well as another?
The Canadian dollar.
Yikes.
That's a small example. There's been places like even think back, like the biggest one that people would often know about would be Germany, probably.
Okay.
Where there were wheelbarrows of money for bread.
Oh yeah.
Things like that happen in an economy where the currency isn't stable. So I would rather it be stable, of course.
Yeah.
But that gets me to the second part of the point, which is how would this inform what I choose to do with money, right? And this is a fundamentally different way that I think about it versus the vast majority of people.
Okay.
So instead of thinking about money as money, if you make the assumption that money is a terrible store of value, it means that you need to do something with that money as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Hence the reason I talk about not having too much cash on hand, etc. But I would rather take the value and get it into something else that has value. Doesn't matter what it is per se. Does that make sense?
Yes.
From what I'm saying? Okay.
I think so. I'm going to talk about it slightly differently just to confirm that I understand. So cash, because if you just keep cash on hand, like you say in the storehouse, I don't know. You have cash, it's going to lose value because of inflation. Mm-hmm. You know that for sure. It's going to start losing its value if you keep it in cash. Therefore, either trading your cash for a different commodity, like gold, a house, like you said, real estate, a business, something like that, will change that value from money which loses to inflation to something that has maybe other risks, but you can diversify those risks by putting your cash in different places. Is that right?
Kind of. You're jumping ahead a little bit, but yes.
Okay.
Kind of. Yeah, kind of. So part of it is that I would rather hold something that isn't... The thing about money is that it is subject, in the current economy, it's subject to what the governments choose to do. Right. That's how it's dictated. People like to think that it's very stable, but it is only as stable as that country's relationship with other countries around the world. Compare that to if you was to take that money and turn it into cattle, right?
Right.
Like that is a value that is there's obviously other different types of risks, etc. But that cattle, no matter what the currency is, you'll be able to trade that cattle for whatever the means of trade is at that time.
Right. Because humans value, like the cattle won't lose value because I mean, like you said, there might be other risks like disease and things like that. But at the end of the day, cattle creates milk. You can use the hide for things. It's meat if you want. So, and humans need to eat. So that's a commodity that we need, I guess.
Yeah. So the value of that cattle might change depending on the currency that's being used, but ultimately it will store value not in a currency. And when you apply that same principle bigger, it's why I do not keep cash, and I would rather put the money into companies.
AKA investing. You want to own parts of companies.
Yes, and people get tied up on like the numbers going up and down when they're investing, but ultimately it doesn't matter, because it's like half the numbers that fluctuate when you, let's say you was to go buy the S&P 500, which is the US top 500 companies in the US. Half of the return that we've gotten from that has been from currency. It's been, like I say, half. A chunk over the past few years has been because the Canadian dollar has weakened against the US dollar. So because the US dollar is stronger, or was stronger than the Canadian dollar over the past few years, the US, if you were to purchase the S&P 500 in US dollars, I think, don't quote me on these numbers, I think it was like last year it did like 20 something percent. If you held it in Canadian dollars, it's 30 something percent. But the difference was purely currency.
Man, that is hard for me to wrap my head around. I'm not gonna lie.
But that's okay. But it is one of those things that people relying on the Canadian dollars to maintain their value against the world and everything that, and against all the other countries in the world, is very risky for reasons that most people do not understand.
So I just want to check it to see if I'm following. So let's say someone wants to invest, but they're saying, I only want to invest in CN Rail in Canadian dollars. That is what you're talking about being risky, because now you've, again, like talking about diversification, you're not diversifying your currency. Is that right? Or sort of?
Not quite. That would still be better because CN Rail provides a service.
Okay.
Like
yeah.
there is other value there that's not tied to Canadian dollars. So if if Canada became the 53rd state or whatever that Trump is talking about, and suddenly we switched to US dollars, CN Rail would maintain its value despite us all shifting to US dollars, right? So owning a company will get through any currency changes because that company would
provide something.
Yes,
is what you're saying. Okay, gotcha.
Right, there's value to it that's not just the currency.
Yeah,
and that's an issue when it comes to somebody holding a lot of cash and just hoping that cash will continue to be either the medium of exchange, because that's changed, we've seen that change, or hoping that currency will maintain its value when we know it will not.
So another question then, would that be, I guess some people hold US cash because it's a different currency and it's, I want to say, better than the Canadian dollar.
That depends on what better means, but
yeah. Well, I guess, yeah. So you're saying Maybe that's too specific and it's getting too convoluted, because I was going to say maybe it would be better to invest that money in.
You're getting too convoluted.
Yeah,
I would say
I'm getting lost.
I would say instead of the way I view money, instead of viewing it as money, I view it as value. So I go to work, I exchange my time, and I create value. In exchange for that value, the company I work for gives me value. What do I do with that value? I can choose to either keep it in currency, which is a means of exchange, or I can choose to put that value into something else that has value outside of currency, outside of that medium of exchange.
Right. Okay, that made a lot of sense to me.
Okay.
The way you explained that.
Okay. So that's the way that I view money, view currency, which is why I think I am so comfortable with the market fluctuations. I'm so comfortable with the fact that I might buy something that I think has value, and it might not go up in value against the currency that I'm using. I don't know. I'm not going to be right every time. But what I do know is that holding value in that means of exchange is a poor decision, and has been a poor decision since gold standard wasn't a thing. Right? So it's like, I know that's a bad decision, so I'm not doing that. There are reasons to hold a little bit of currency, of course, but the bulk of my wealth is never going to be stored in a currency that tomorrow I might need a wheelbarrow of it to buy bread.
Yeah.
And that's not up to me. I have no control over what that currency is worth. In Germany, when the currency got devalued, if those people, they weren't for a whole bunch of economic reasons and sanctions and stuff, but let's say they were holding US bread making companies, or European bread making companies, or Louis Vuitton out of France, or like holding the global economy, they would have been able to sell that global economy for currency that was now super devalued, but it would have been enough to buy them what they needed. But if they were holding all of their value, all of their wealth in, was it francs? I can't remember what it was.
That sounds right, but I can't.
Is that Swiss francs? I can't remember. Marks. German mark?
I don't know if that's... I mean,
I don't know. Whatever the German currency was.
Yeah.
If they were holding it in that, then it got devalued and they needed wheelbarrows of it. And suddenly the same price that it cost them to buy a car was now the same price as it cost them to buy a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
Holding money, holding value, a means to transfer value from one thing to another, bad idea. Not doing it.
Yeah. Take that value and make it more valuable.
Or put it into something that has value. Just any, like...
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, sorry.
Doesn't
yeah,
have
not
to be more valuable.
Yeah.
Just not leaving it in a currency that you don't have control over is terrifying.
Yeah, because we haven't... Somebody else has assigned value, right? And I guess that the majority kind of has a say in that, or governments or countries.
Governments have a huge say, and other countries have a huge say. And we've seen with trade wars have a huge say. Like, there's so much stuff that is out of our control that has a huge say in what currency is valued at. And it's just a scary thing for me, it's way, way, way more scary than the markets going up and down 10% a year. You know, like, to me, that is, I'll do that every day of the week, as opposed to leaving value that I've worked hard to get to knowingly deteriorate.
Yeah.
And I know people think to themselves, oh, but I'm located in Canada, or I don't, so it doesn't matter that it's just Canadian dollars because I live in Canada. The thing is that because we trade with other countries, we're subject to the global system, the global trading system.
Right.
Therefore, it is not a case of we live in Canada, so we only store money in Canadian dollars. we trade with everybody. If the Canadian dollar, we've seen it already, if the Canadian dollar halves against the US dollar, a lot of our cars are a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
You know, if the Canadian dollar halves against the British pound, my tea is more expensive. I don't know. I don't think that's even grown in England, but it's not. I'm pretty sure it's not.
PG tips.
Yeah. It's, you know, like, so I would much rather store the money in businesses.
That makes sense.
Right? Businesses in real estate to a degree, but even then it's kind of sketchy. Farmland, like just things that, even gold, I would rather keep it. If I had to choose between storing it in Canadian dollars or storing it in gold, I would pick gold.
Wow.
Right? Like, it's just, I am not going to be storing, I do not store large amounts of value in a, and that's also part of the reason that I won't buy like Bitcoin or like in large amounts or anything like that, is it's just, again, Bitcoin is designed as a transactional piece.
Mm-hmm. It's still, like, I understand what you were saying earlier, but it is still kind of that middleman.
Even
right?
Gold is, right?
Right.
So
yeah, that's
at
true.
least gold, though, has how many thousands and thousands of years of history, but you're right, it's still that middleman between two.
It's just a rock.
Between two sources of value. So, yeah, I know that was. Hope maybe you followed, maybe you didn't follow.
Sometimes
sure.
Our friends say they can't follow us.
I couldn't
Trey
imagine
and
why.
So I'm hoping it's not too chaotic, but
It probably is. I'm sure as we do more of these, it will get a little bit clearer. But you and I we like having these more whimsical. Is whimsical the right word?
that's not the word.
That's not the right word.
Whimsical
What would the right
is
word
like,
be?
yeah, that's not the word. Yeah, I think you said it right. Where it's kind of philosophical, but honestly, it's more. This was more of an economics lesson, I guess. And
but there was no.
Yeah.
I would say there's no hard and fast. Like I'm all about data driven things, right? And this is definitely
Right.
more of my view of the world versus here are the facts and figures about, you know, the way that the way that things work. It is more like, these are my thoughts. This is what I think about at night when I'm, you know.
at 4 a.m. when you wake up and can't sleep, this is what you're thinking
This
about.
is what I'm thinking about. Yeah.
It's true though. Even when you were saying, you were talking about how money is value, or you're exchanging value. I've heard you say that for years, so I know that's definitely how you view it. But it makes sense. It makes sense to me. So maybe someone out there would agree and say, yeah, that does make sense to me as well, and that's a different way I'm going to think about it. Instead of exchanging, well, maybe that's a different topic. Sorry, I was thinking about exchanging time for money.
A different topic.
But yes, you're adding value, and when you increase the value, you're getting more value, which is cash. But it's all just value, and you reassign it to something else that has value.
Yeah.
That
basically.
was really clear, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, I think we'll leave it there. Maybe we'll do more episodes like this. Maybe we won't. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
Okay, perfect. I will see you guys in the next one.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Plain English Finance Podcast. Trey Bino, Certified Financial Planner, Chartered Investment Manager, is a financial planner with TC Wealth Management and Aviso Wealth. You should always consult with your financial, legal, and tax advisors before making changes. This podcast is provided as a general source of information and should not be considered personal investment advice or solicitation to buy or sell any securities. The views expressed are those of the individual and are not necessarily those of Aviso Financial Inc. Mutual funds and other securities offered through Aviso Wealth